Well, good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get this meeting started. This is the June 17th, 2025 Placer County Zoning Administrator and Parcel Review Committee hearing, though I don't think we have any Parcel Review Committee items today, so it'll just be the Zoning Administrator hearing. My name is Crystal Jacobson. I'm going to be the hearing officer for today's hearing, so just want to welcome everyone and thanks for being here. I want to start by providing some information about participation in the hearing process today. So the North Tahoe Event Center here is open to in-person attendance. In-person comment will be offered during the meeting. When providing public comments, please come up to the podium here, state your name for the record, and then begin your comments, and you'll have 3 minutes to comment. So we'll provide public comment for every item on the agenda, but in addition to that, we're going to open it up to just general public comment for today's hearing. So anyone that wishes to provide comment for any items that are not on the agenda, now is your opportunity to do so. You may come to the podium and state your name for the record. Is there anyone here today that wishes to provide comment on any matter that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. I'm convening as the zoning administrator today, so everyone understands how each item is going to go. I'm going to first ask for staff's presentation. We do have some staff that are actually online, so some folks will be speaking online, but I'll ask for staff to provide a report on each item. And then after that, I will ask the applicant, owner, or representative to come to the podium and provide any additional information that they want to be considered today. And then after that, I'll open it up to public comment before making a decision on the items. So with that, it is 10:02. We're going to start with our 10 o'clock item. This is a request for a front setback variance and administrative approval. This is PLN 24-00322. And I am going to turn it over to Ms. Beckman for a report on the matter.
Thank you. Good morning. So I'll be presenting the Toby Saints front setback and administrative approval project today. The property is located at 5459 Hillside Drive. That's at the corner of Buckeye Way and in the Soda Springs area. The property is zoned single-family residential with a combining minimum building site of 6,500 square feet. The property owners are seeking a variance to the front setback off of Buckeye Way for a 2-story living area addition, and they're also seeking an administrative approval for an increase to height. The property is relatively small in size at 0.22 acres. It was originally developed in 1978 with an approximate 1,200 square foot 2-story single-family residence. The primary access is off of Hillside Drive, and that's a primary road for the subdivision. And the property also does not have any sort of covered protected parking or ingress or egress to the residence. Buckeye Way, which is the other frontage for the property, although it's a county maintained road, it's only about 150 feet long, and it dead ends into an undeveloped 86-acre parcel. The properties to the north, south, and east of the subject site are all developed with single-family residences. The proposal is to utilize the existing foundation and 2-story home and actually raise that structure and add a new first story level. That first story would contain a 2-car garage as well as an attached accessory dwelling unit. So the final product would be a residence that's in the same footprint or location as today, that would have both 2-story and 3-story components to it, and that contains the original 2-story residence and living area and the additional living area and 2-car garage. And then also as part of the proposal is a new rear deck. Access would still be maintained off of Hillside Drive. So the variance specifically is seeking a front setback of 18.7 feet for the structure and 20.25 feet for the rear deck, whereas 30 feet rather from the property line is otherwise required. And that's off of the Buckeye Way frontage. Now moving on to the height administrative approval. With the addition of the new ground floor, this increases a portion of the residence to the 3 stories. It should be noted that this 3-story element is outside of the front setback. The existing height is 27.58 feet, whereas the proposed height is 35 feet, 10.2 inches. The maximum height is otherwise allowed at 35 feet. So the site, staff has determined that the site is constrained due to the relatively small size, the 2 front setbacks, and the location of the existing development, the footprint of which will be maintained. Additionally, the residence does not have any protected parking or ingress and egress to the residence, which is critical in snow country. The owners are motivated to add that garage for that protected ingress and egress, as well as to provide for an accessory dwelling unit. So to minimize the environmental impacts, as well as some financial burden, the owner has chosen to retain that existing structure and the foundation, which are still within their useful lifespan. So the retention of these elements, including the foundation and that interior floor plan of the existing residence, are what are triggering that additional living area to be on that Buckeye Way frontage or within that frontage, as well as that modest increase to height. Again, Buckeye Way, it's a 150-foot dead-end spur, which sees a very low traffic volume. Snow is not currently removed from that right-of-way, and more Placer County snow removal operations to occur in the future. The development is proposed at 37.8 feet from the edge of pavement, which exceeds the 30-foot requirement by the Department of Public Works. So all that said, staff does recommend approval of the variance and the administrative approval to height. This is based on a Class 3 exemption for new construction of small structures, a Class 5 exemption for minor alterations to land, and subject to the findings and conditions of approval in the staff report. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. I don't think I have any questions at this time. I'm going to turn to some staff online. I didn't see any comments from environmental health on this, but I don't know if we want to kind of go to her and to see if she has anything to add for the record.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Environmental health had no comments on the project.
Great, thank you. And then do we have anybody, I think we have somebody from ESD, Engineering and Surveying Division on the line.
Good morning, Ms. Jacobson. I have no comments beyond those identified in the staff report, but I'm also available for questions.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so at this time I'm going to go ahead and turn to either the property owner, applicant, or representative to come to the podium and state your name for the record and provide any additional information that you might want to provide.
I'm Jay Garbarino, Cornerstone Engineering, the designer and engineer on the project. Nothing more to say. We are abandoning a certain deck that even goes further into the setback that's existing right now. So it actually pulls us back about 10 feet from what's happening currently. So we're given. But yeah, I think it'll be a great thing. Thanks for all your work and any questions I can answer.
Well, the only question I would have is, have you reviewed the conditions of approval and are you comfortable with the conditions that are listed in the... Have you had a chance to look at those?
Meaning which specifics that are, I mean.
Yeah, were you provided a copy of the conditions? Okay, so just want to make sure you've reviewed them and are comfortable with them before we move on. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. So go ahead and take a seat and then I'll see if there's anyone else in the room that wishes to provide comment. So is there anyone else here today that wants to provide any comment on this item on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and I am going to take action to approve the variance and administrative approvals for PLN 24-00322. This is based upon the findings contained in the staff report, including findings for the variance and findings for the administrative approval, relief from standards. As well as a finding that the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. So the action today, because no one spoke in opposition or provided any public comments, we didn't have any written comments on this matter. I can waive the appeal period. So the only person that has the right to appeal is...
Minister, I believe we did receive a comment.
We did.
Can we?
I don't have anything in my packet. Nothing in my... Okay, I have not seen anything, so I need to... I don't. I can't get online here. So, okay, I'm going to take just a brief pause. So if we can pause for 2 minutes, I'd like to review that material. So have you, Heather, have you seen a comment? That
I
came
don't
in on
believe
it?
so. No.
It's right here. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we did receive one comment in the record, and my apologies that I didn't have that in front of me in my packet. And it is speaking in opposition to the basically the increased height of the home and setback. Having read it and listening to staff's report, I concur with the findings that staff has made that this lot does have special circumstances that would warrant granting the variance. So I'm not changing my action today. However, there is an appeal period. So since we did receive comments on the request, there is a 10-day appeal period before this decision becomes final. If anyone disagrees with my decision here today or feels that they had been adversely affected, they can file an appeal of my decision, and my decision will be set aside until such time that the appeal can be heard by the Planning Commission. Should an appeal be filed, it will be subject to a filing fee of $752. So that concludes.
Administrator Jacobson, just before we move on, could you provide clarification if your approval is subject to the conditions of approval?
Yes, yep, I'll say it again. So this action is subject to the conditions of approval listed in the staff report, and they are contained in attachment B. Okay, that concludes item number 1 on the agenda, and we're going to move on to.
Is that public record, those comments, or not?
Yes.
So they will be part of some packet somewhere?
They
Um,
should be posted onto the website.
Yeah. So can I ask the clerk of the.
Hold 1 second, please. That is not, the comments are not posted online for zoning administrator. We can forward that comment to the applicant.
Okay.
Okay, so we will provide that comment to the applicant.
Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a 10:05 timed item. This is for a variance extension of time, PLN 21-00356-EOT 001. And this was a variance that had previously been approved. And so these folks are asking for an extension of time for the previously approved variance. And I'm going to again, turn this over to planning staff for a report on the matter, and then we'll open it up to the applicant and members of the public after.
Thank you. So as you mentioned, this is the Seegert variance extension of time. The property is located at 7460 North Lake Boulevard, and that's in the Tahoe Vista area and within the Tahoe Basin. The property is zoned North Tahoe West, Mixed Use Gateway East. The Seegerts are requesting an extension of time for a previously approved variance, variances to the front and rear setback for the tear down and rebuild of a single family residential project. The original approval was granted by the zoning administrator on May 19th of 2022. The property is bordered to the north by North Lake Boulevard, and across the highway is a tourist development. To the east, there's a 6-unit multifamily residential development. And to the south, there's Lake Tahoe. But between the property, the rear property line, and Lake Tahoe, there is a county-owned strip of land that varies in width from 48 to 58 feet wide that is commonly referred to as Moon Dunes Beach. So it's a public recreation, accessible area for recreation. And then the western property line, it's adjacent to a 40-foot wide county right-of-way. And the county primarily regards this right-of-way as being public beach access to Moon Dunes Beach. The subject parcel is developed with a small single-family dwelling and an attached garage that was originally built in 1932. The parcel is small at just over 5,300 square feet, and the buildable area outside of the setbacks is just over 2,800 square feet. So the applicant proposes to, as part of the original variance, proposed to demolish the existing residence and reconstruct 3,876 square foot, 2-story single-family residence with an attached garage and 2 levels of decks off the rear of the residence. The applicant proposes to maintain that driveway access off of the 40-foot county right-of-way that serves as access to Moon Dunes Beach. As part of the project proposal as a whole, they are also proposing a 6-foot tall fence on the northern, eastern, and western property lines. So specifically, the previous approval allowed for setback reductions. For the front setback, there's a 0-foot proposal for the 6-foot tall fence. For the first and second floor living area, it's 15 feet to structure, 13 feet to eaves. And for the cantilevered second story living area, 13 feet to the cantilever, 11 feet to eaves. Off the rear, there are 2 stories of decks proposed. And I should have said the front setback has a normal development standard of 20 feet from the property line. For the rear setback, which has a standard of 10 feet from the property line, the variance proposal is 3 feet for both the first and second story decks. So staff has determined that the findings for an extension of time have been met. The applicant submitted for the extension on February 26th of 2025, and that was prior to the expiration of the original variance approval. Staff further determined that there have been no changes in conditions to the site or circumstances to the project site, the proposal, or to any of the governing regulations. And so therefore, there's no grounds for denying the application. The applicant did diligently pursue the application with both Placer County and TRPA while they were working to satisfy necessary conditions to pull the building permits, but that was delayed due to some family health issues. So all of the recommended conditions of approval remain the same with the exception of conditions 1, 12, and 13, and they were only modified as it relates to the effective date and the expiration for the extension of time. And were the extension to be approved, the new expiration date would be May 19th of 2027. So staff does recommend approval of the extension of time. This would be based on the Class 3 CEQA exemption for new construction of small structures, Class 5 CEQA exemption for minor alterations to land, and would be subject to the findings and conditions of approval in the staff report. And I didn't receive any comments on this project.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Beckman. I have not received any comments on this one, but before we move on, I just want to make sure that, have we received any comments on this one that I don't have in my packet? Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over. I don't see any comments in the record. Oh, wait, we do have something from Environmental Health on this. So I want to turn to Environmental Health staff who is on the line. Ms. Pullman?
Yeah, and Environmental Health did not have any objections or comments to the extension of time request.
Okay, thank you. There is a condition from Environmental Health, but I think that one has not been changed. So, and then also I want to turn to Engineering and Surveying Division, who I think is on the line as well.
This is Monica Grimenos from the Engineering and Surveying. Engineering and Surveying supports the project and no additional comments besides what was identified in the staff report.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this point, I'm going to turn to the owner, applicant, or representative. If anyone's in the room wishes to come to the podium and state their name for the record. Is there anyone here? Great, hi, good morning.
Good morning. My name's Abby Edwards and from Tahoe Land Planning, and I'm here to represent the property owner. And we've reviewed all of the conditions of approval for the extension of time and have no comments.
Okay.
And agree to the conditions.
Great, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and have a seat, and then I'll ask to see if there's anyone else in the room who wishes to provide comment on this item. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and take action to approve the variance extension of time PLN 21-00356-EOT 001. That is based on the findings contained in the staff report, including a finding that the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. And then there's a list of findings related to the extension of time. And it's also subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report. And those have been modified today to change the date. And they're, again, contained in attachment B of the staff report. Since no one spoke in opposition to this, the only person that has the right to appeal is the applicant. Which I presume that they don't. And so we are going to go ahead and waive the appeal period. So that concludes item number 2, and want to thank you for being here today. Okay, and then item number 3 on the agenda is 10:10, and we're at 10:21, so we can move on to this item. So this one is also a variance. This is a variance to a front setback, PLN 25-00006. What I'm going to do here is turn it over to the planning staff for a report on the matter, and then we will move on to folks online and then to the applicant and folks in the room for comment.
Thank you. So this project is the Files front setback variance. The property is located at 1275 River Road, and that's about 1.2 miles west of Tahoe City. The property is recreationally zoned in the Lower Truckee Recreational Subdistrict. Single-family residences are allowed by right in this recreationally zoned subdistrict. It's in recognition of the sparse but historic residential development in the area. The property owners are seeking a variance to the front setback to allow for a second-story living area addition above an existing garage. And the garage, that existing garage is located within the front setback, as was approved by a previous variance. So specifically, the applicant is requesting a front setback of 23.5 feet for that second-story addition, whereas 50 feet from the River Road easement is otherwise required. So the property is about 1.35 acres in size. It's located on the southern banks of the Truckee River. The southern property portion of the property is subject to the 100-year floodplain associated with the river. The northern portion of the property, which has slopes ranging from 28 to 55%, is mapped within a potential avalanche hazard area. All of the existing and proposed development, however, is outside of these constraints. River Road is a private drive that provides access to 3 parcels, and the subject parcel is the last on that road. And that's what creates a roadway easement and a front setback. The original residence associated with the property was destroyed by a fire in 1997, and the residence was rebuilt. In 1998, they received an approval for a variance for a reduced front setback to allow the garage that exists today. It is important to note, however, that the setbacks in place at the time of the 1998 variance were different than those today under the Tahoe Basin Area Plan. So in 1998, the setback requirements were measured as 45 feet from the center line of the traveled way, whereas today it's measured as 50 feet from the edge of the River Road easement. The project proposes, as I mentioned, a second-story addition over the garage. Although the setbacks are different from 1998 to present day, the extent of the encroachment and the footprint of the encroachment remains the same. So again, the request today would be for a 23.5-foot front setback, whereas 50 feet is otherwise required. So staff has determined that there are special circumstances to the property. The proposed living space meets the same setback as the garage and is compliant with height standards. River Road is a private driveway easement serving the 3 parcels, of which this is the last on the road. The road is not maintained by Placer County, so therefore there are no impacts to the county snow removal operations or to the other neighboring properties. As such, this variance request is the minimum departure for setback standards and would result in less disturbance were this addition to be placed elsewhere on the property. So with that, staff does recommend approval of the variance based on a Class 3 exemption for new construction of small structures and a Class 5 CEQA exemption for minor alterations to land, and subject to the findings and conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
Okay, great. Thank
And
you.
I didn't receive any public comments.
Okay,
Sorry, I should
I
have.
was just going to ask that. I have not either. I don't have any in my packet. So just want to confirm no comments on this, no written comments on this. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to, there is a condition that looks like from environmental health. So I want to turn to environmental health staff who's online.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Environmental health supports staff's recommendation subject to our condition of approval in the staff report. And that's essentially that if they do, for some reason, increase the net count of bedrooms, we would need to further evaluate the on-site sewage disposal system.
Okay, great. And
And that's all I had.
great, thank you. And then I also want to turn to engineering and surveying, who is also online.
Engineering and surveying has no comments or conditions for this project, but I am available for questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this point, I'm going to turn to the owner, applicant, or representative. Is anybody in the room that wishes to speak? Yeah, state your name for the record.
My name is Dennis Dodds. I'm the project engineer and designer of the addition. And we've reviewed the conditions of approval. There is no increase in the number of bedrooms. This will be like a family room above the garage. And we're in agreement with all the other conditions as well.
Great.
I thank Heather for the thorough job and hard work.
Thank you for that. Yeah, beautiful piece of property, by the way. So, okay, so go ahead and take a seat, and then I'll see, is there anybody else in the room here today that wishes to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to take action today to approve the front setback variance, PLN 25-00006. That is based upon the findings contained in the staff report. There are findings for the variance, as well as a finding that the project is found to be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. And then subject to the conditions of approval that are contained in attachment B of the staff report. And so that concludes the public hearing. So we're closing the public hearing. But then because we did not receive any written public comment or any folks in the room today that provided comment, the only person who has a right to appeal is the applicant. So I'm going to waive the appeal period, and you're welcome to apply for a building permit. So thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, so the final item on today's agenda is item number 4, which is a 10:15 item, and it is 10:28. So we're going to move on to this. This is actually for a minor use permit. So this is the Glendon Detached Garage and Accessory Dwelling Minor Use Permit, PLN 25-00147. So as with the other items, I'm going to turn to staff for a report on the matter and then open it up to the applicant and then any other folks in the room that want to provide testimony today. For the record, I do not have any written comments that I have seen, but I'll turn to staff for a report and let me know if you have received anything as well.
Thank you. So the Glidden property is located at 405 Ellis Road. That's in the Tahoe area. The property has split zoning. So the majority of the parcel is within the Chambers Landing residential subdistrict where single-family dwellings are allowed by right. There's a portion of the property that's located within the Homewood Tahoe Ski Bowl recreational subdistrict, and residential development within that area requires a minor use permit. The property owners are seeking that minor use permit for the construction of a detached 1,600 square foot garage, and above that would be a 1,200 square foot accessory dwelling unit. And that structure is located within the Homewood Tahoe Ski Bowl recreational subdistrict. The property is just over an acre in size. It's located on the periphery of the Chamberlain residential subdivision and is surrounded to the rear and the west by a 35-acre California Tahoe Conservancy parcel, or CTC parcel. The CTC lands are undeveloped, but they do have a developed user trail system that accesses the Quail Lake area. The property was originally developed in the mid-1980s with a single-family dwelling and a carport. In 2023, an MBLA was recorded between the Glidden parcel and the surrounding CTC parcel, and this was to rectify public trespass that was occurring across the Glidden parcel to access those Quail Lake trails. And the result of the MBLA is what resulted in the split zoning that we see on the parcel today. During the design process for the garage, a Tahoe Basin area plan mapping error that was related to the governing development standards came to light. So on May 9th of this year, the Placer County Planning Director's determination was issued, and it identified that the development standards for that Homewood Tahoe Ski Bowl recreational subdistrict would be drawn from the Plan Area Statement 157 of the West Shore General Plan. So it's these development standards that both allow for the residential development but require the minor use permit. So as I mentioned, the project is the 1,600 square foot garage with an accessory dwelling unit above. Staff has determined that the project is consistent with the applicable policies of the Placer County General Plan and the Tahoe Basin Area Plan. Residential uses and accessory structures are permissible in both of the zone districts. The property and the proposed garage and the ADU are sited such that there's a distance buffer from the primary residence on site and from other residential development in the area. So it's ensuring compatibility with the surrounding uses. And many of our Tahoe trailheads actually originate from residential areas. So it's not uncommon to see these structures next to a launching point or a trailhead for the CTC system. So staff does recommend approval of this minor use permit. This would be based on a Class 3 CEQA exemption for new construction of small structures and subject to the findings and conditions of approval in the staff report. And I have not received any public comment.
Okay, great, thank you. And then, so I'm going to go ahead and turn, I don't think I have any questions on it. I did read through the planning director's determination and kind of understand the split zoning on the site. Kind of an odd one to require a use permit for an ADU, but I understand it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to folks online, our staff online, and see if environmental health or engineering surveying have anything to add to the record. Starting with environmental
Thank you.
health.
Environmental health had no comments.
Great, thank you very much. And engineering and surveying?
Engineering and surveying also has no comments or conditions for this project.
Okay, great, thank you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to the owner or applicant representative. Anyone here today in the room to represent this project? Yeah, can you please just state your name for the record?
Yeah, I'm Trevor Glidden. It's my parcel. I guess I don't really have any comment if no one else does, but I can answer questions for you.
Can I just ask if you have been provided a copy of the conditions of approval for the project?
With the staff report.
Okay.
The staff,
yes.
you've got it. Okay, and
Yes.
no concerns.
I don't
with
have any
what's
concerns,
been
no.
outlined. Okay, great. Go ahead and take a seat, and then I'll just make sure that is there anyone else in the room that wishes to provide comment on this matter before I take action on it? Okay. So seeing none, I am going to go ahead and take action. I'm going to close the public hearing and then take action to approve the minor use permit for an accessory dwelling unit and garage, and that's PLN 25-00147. My approval today is based upon the findings contained in the staff report. There are findings for the minor use permit, as well as a finding that the project is found to be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. And then in addition, the project is subject to the conditions of approval that are listed in the staff report, attachment D of the staff report. Since we didn't receive any written or verbal comments on this matter today, the only person that has the right to appeal is the applicant. So I'm going to go ahead and waive the appeal period. And for the applicant, you are welcome to get started on your project. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And with that, that is the final item on our agenda. So it concludes the June 17th, 2025 Zoning Administrator Parcel Review Committee hearing. And I'm going to adjourn the hearing. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here.